Let's have some evidence before I get a little bit emotional. So, I'm going to ask three members of the board. You were talking about women. Here's the board. Here's the patriarchy sat up here. Really good. We'll swap this over very soon, I promise you. So, Alan is going to talk a little bit about some of our research that we've done with the audience agency. Sorry. Poison chalice, whatever. Ajay's going to talk about some of the Nutkhut Mela Partnership evidence, and Graham's going to talk about global streets. So, Alan, can I have you over here first? I'll hand you the clicker. It's those ones, yeah?
Which one?
The arrows.
Okay.
Quick swap over.
Hi. There we go. So Angus last week emailed me and gave me the rather romantic and thrilling proposal of presenting the findings of the audience agency that Outdoor Arts UK did a study on to look at how the audience is made up, etc., etc. Whilst it isn't very thrilling or indeed romantic, it is quite useful for a number of reasons. If you are sort of starting out and you want to sort of convince your local council or indeed arts council that what you're doing is useful, I think you can find things within this that are quite good. I find myself in Scotland, because I'm based in Glasgow, explaining to a lot of places in the farther reaches of Scotland that outdoor arts isn't just unicycling on stilts, which I blame the Edinburgh Festival for entirely. So this sort of information that you can give to local councils, and they go, oh right, there's other things, brilliant, okay. So this is a kind of overview of what they looked at. And so, you know, if you're talking to specific people, just pick out what's useful for you. So depending on who you're addressing. So the sort of bringing people together is a sort of common theme around the place. Collectiveness, engaging newcomers. So a lot of people come to outdoor arts, it's the only thing they engage with in the arts annually, which is good. Mixing art forms, which as Deb said earlier, is very good for experimentation, but also means often there's something for everyone. Moving on. Who are you? So one of the things which I think is special about outdoor arts, which other performing arts can't boast, is the amount of young people that it brings. A lot of performing arts are finding that their audiences are dying, literally. Whereas so some of the statistics here, so 60% of outdoor audiences are between 16 and 44, which accounts for 38% of the population, so that's pretty good. And also there's a considerable diversity, which only sort of certain types of music can boast. Stormzy proving that recently with his getting behind the Labour Party, God bless him. And that's important in terms of, because there's a lot of sort of youth engagement programs around, which I think, you know, the fact that there is an independent organisation saying, look, this is who we appeal to. And also it means there's some sort of future in outdoor arts if young people are going to it. Similarly, it doesn't rely on people who are sort of, what do they call them? Is it high flyers? Something? Is it high flyers, high flying, whatever it is? People who go to the arts a lot. So this attracts people not only for the first time, but that people come back who don't engage with the arts a lot. I've only got 5 minutes, I'm going very quickly. It's all on a website, I'll tell you at the end. Why do they come? Social interaction seems to be one of the major things which, in the life of staring at screens and you know, the whole well-being agenda, I think that's quite an important thing to push. And then finally is, most importantly, people think it's good. People actually like it. 94% of people said it was good. And if you look, so the people who don't like it is like 0 to 1%, that little red bit in the corner, which roughly equates to the people who ring up local radio to complain. That's a hobby. So I think we can kind of ignore them, do you know what I mean? Anyway. And 95% think it's good value for money, which is quite weird. There's only 95% since most of it's free. I don't know what I don't know what good value for money means. It's like, yeah, you have to pay people to go to shows or whatever. But anyway, that's the website. Use it. It's quite useful. Read it if you don't know about it. And that's me. Thanks.
moving on. Ajay, can we have you? Ajay, we'll have you over. So next, going to hear about making the case, Nutkhut and Mela Partnership, of course. Are you good with that?
Yep.
It's the arrows. Forward.
Arrows left and right.
Yeah.
God, it is bright. What do they normally do at these moments? Sort of say good morning conference and all that kind of stuff. It's fantastic to see you, and Angus, thank you for sharing with us your journey this summer. I think it's really important to be in the place, connect with the members. We're a national organisation, and it's so fantastic to see so many new people in the room. Really fantastic. And Deb, thank you for giving us a snapshot. I think we need Deb to write a book over the last 40 years. So if there's a publisher in the house, Coventry University, or whoever that is, somebody, let's get a publisher connected with Deb. I'll just crack on. As Alan said, we've only got a short amount of time to share details, but all of this information that Alan, myself, and Graham are sharing are all on our websites. Data for us is the evidence not only to demonstrate need, but in the case of the work that we're doing, visibility. 500,000 people annually engage in Mela and have done over the last 30 years. 60 years ago, my family came from a small island in the South Pacific and made Coventry home. But they didn't appear in any data, in any reports, in any census or any strategies. So living with that, one feels the need to start thinking about what impact data can do to visibility. Fast forward, in 2017, the largest mass migration in history, the freedom movement of the partition of India, wasn't marked or noted by any outdoor arts or public institution in this country. And so it was a turning point for us in 2017. We had a phone call from a volunteer from Newcastle Mela, who was celebrating their 25th anniversary and was concerned that the Great Exhibition of the North hadn't been in touch with them. A massively funded initiative that was supporting outdoor work, the arts in general, but bringing the sort of work we do into the public domain. The Newcastle Mela was 25 years old in 2017. They were annually putting on events for 40,000 people, Pakistani taxi drivers, Bangladeshi restaurant workers, the whole gamut of the invisible society of Northumberland and the Northeast were not part of this important national event. That worried us, that troubled us, and from that point onwards we felt we need to own this space and we need to take some form of leadership and try and do something about it. Before I show you some of the activity that we're doing this summer, I think it's important to remind us why we do what we do. We do what we do because of the audiences that we serve. So over the series of this summer, we've commissioned a series of short films, 1-minute Instagram films that we just in a sort of soft touch way, just keep getting out there. So I'm just going to play that for you. And now for the data. And it's important, those sorts of films, just to remind us of who we are as a society. When I go to places in the east of England, to festivals in the east of England or on the south coast, and I go to those places of faith, the masjids, the mosques, the mandirs, the temples, the gurdwaras, the churches, and I see where families congregate and call home, or I jump into a taxi and the taxi driver might be from another part of the world, and then have these conversations about why they're not part of the festival of their town or city. That becomes a really interesting missing piece of our outdoor arts jigsaw. So the data for us this summer. So that's what Mela means. So this was a comment made by a stakeholder that was picked up by one of our volunteers. And we thought, well, actually, if our stakeholders who are paying and supporting the work aren't understanding what we're doing, then how do we change that? We need to start educating. So there is a kind of drive towards making sure people understand what Mela is, what it means to people. Surely, if this event has been going on for 30 odd years, it clearly means something to somebody. All of this is on the website. These are three sort of important areas of our work: visibility, to capture the data, and of course, ultimately, to make fantastic shows that bring delight and pleasure to people. Sorry, I don't know how this thing works. I'm just clicking twice. These are the people we work with: artists, arts organisations, art centres, CPPs, local authorities, volunteers, local businesses, schools, colleges, families and communities. So a whole range. It's not just in that kind of arts echo chamber that we often try and get away from. So as I said earlier, 500,000 people attending these events. It's been going on for 30 years. We started off as a pilot in the Northwest in Preston, Manchester and Blackburn, and over the last 5 years have pretty much covered most of the country. And this isn't about emails or phone calls. This is about personal relationships, about investing in people, making friendships, building trust. Crawley, Middlesbrough, Luton, Sandwell and Birmingham, etc., Hull, Bournemouth. And these aren't just places where Melas happen. These are also, we're also beginning to operate in places where there are no Melas, and there are very little diverse communities, but it's more about engaging with those festival organisers and helping them diversify their programmes. Sorry, almost there. There's loads of circles all over the country. A snapshot of this summer. And once these figures start to come up, people start to realise the significance of Mela compared to funded events with staff. I mean, Melas are largely volunteer-led. They work from year to year. I should have sped this up a bit, shouldn't I? 317 community groups took part this summer with us. Intergenerational. When people come to Melas, 3 generations come: parents, kids, grandparents. We made a big emphasis on word of mouth and social media campaigns, and that's really begun to kick in. Almost there. 9 productions, 28 performances this summer. Again, these figures chime with some of the audience agencies' figures, but obviously in the case of Mela, they're higher. And finally, 67% of our audiences, if they're attending one arts event over the past year, it has tended to be their local Mela. So our mission in 2020, we've made a connection with De Montfort University, and we're holding a symposium, which you'll all hear about. We'll ensure that it's part of the Outdoor Arts UK newsletters. But that symposium is to really start to drill down and focus on some of these figures and some of these audiences. That's it. Thank you.
Thank you, Ajay. Right. Speeding through. Lovely. So, Graham from Birmingham Hippodrome, you're going to talk about global streets, if you would. Should I give you the clicker?
Streets. Thank you. Good morning, everybody. I think we're still morning. So, yes, global streets. I mean, I think really just building on the past two presentations, what's exciting is that there's a huge amount more data now out there to really help with your applications, but also making the case for outdoor arts as an art form that really is engaging the most diverse audiences we have in the UK. And I think that's a really helpful thing. And so this presentation really just brings to life a bit more another program that we have taking place in the UK. It's been funded by Arts Council since 2015. I'm pleased to say that the program is continuing for another 3 years. Thank you, Arts Council. And it takes place in a range of different locations, different partners as well across the UK. So we have festival partners, theatres, and we also have some creative people and places. So it's an interesting consortium of experiences, or experience, I should say, partners. All over the UK, Birmingham to Barking and Dagenham, Luton to Leicester and so forth. And over the first 3 years of the programme, 180,000 people have had an experience through the international outdoor arts that we bring through the programme. What's interesting about the research that we undertake, so thousands of surveys have been undertaken through our partner, the Audience Agency, and what keeps coming back is these messages about how people see their perceptions being changed about the place where they live, where they work, for the positive. Very much feeling senses of pride in terms of their place as well. The fact that their place can be taken over by an international arts company coming to their town or city is really powerful for communities and residents who might not, as some of the locations indicate, don't necessarily engage with the arts normally. And what we also find from the data is that people have a greater understanding of people from different cultures. And I think that's an important thing to stress in this time of Brexit, obviously, in terms of more division across the UK. So some of the qualitative statements we've had come back, I won't read them all out, but the one that I really like is there's the quote from the audience member in Doncaster. So it's fantastic for this town. The turnout was amazing throughout all the streets. It's just really good to actually get involved with different things, and it brings diversity to the town. And I think that's what, again, from going back to what Alan was saying to the Audience Agency's report, it is about diversity, it is about bringing streets alive. Some of the quantitative stats for you, again, with the Global Streets programme. So we've had 45 performances, 15 productions across the programme over the past 3 years. 180,000 split between participants and audiences. Really, really key stat for us is that 45% of our audiences are from low arts engagers, so your kaleidoscope creatives, as I'm sure you're familiar with, and how that stacks up against the national stats. So again, just underlining how important outdoor arts is to engage much, much broader audiences. And 78% felt pride in the local area. I mean, that's a fantastic stat, I think, that any councillor or any business would be interested in getting involved with in terms of how people feel about their towns and communities. Final slide from me. This is just a small case study that we've had in Birmingham. So as part of the programme, as part of our Summer and Southside Festival, 2018 we brought Olivier Grossetet to our festival. And we commissioned him to create this giant 30-foot cardboard People's Tower, our Chinese arch. We're located in Chinatown, Birmingham Hippodrome. And so we've had several projects that have been connecting with the Chinese community in particular in Birmingham over the past few years. What was brilliant about the project was that you have this big participatory element, huge effort to actually build the kind of foundations, if you like, the building blocks of the artwork. And it's very much like a Tetris, the way it's kind of put together by the artist. So we had people from the Chinese community, we had a learning disabled group, we had students from Boa Academy, so on and so forth. But we also got our organisation involved as well, so we had volunteers from the Hippodrome and our patrons and so forth. And the fantastic thing was then building it, because over the weekend, as we were building it on a Saturday, it gets built in stages and you raise it sort of this sort of high every time. We had stag do's, we had hen parties, we had local homeless people, we had rugby teams, we had the Chinese community, we had people who were coming to the festival, we had passers-by get involved, and every time we lifted it, there was about 150 people involved, you know. And that was a fantastic collective effort that brought people together, and people really appreciated it. And so for one night in Birmingham, our Chinese arch trended on Twitter, which was great. And through all of that participation, yes, there was 1,500 people who helped build the thing. And on Sunday, we pulled it down. And I think about audiences of about 5,000 people saw it. So really fantastic project that was only made able to happen through the Global Streets project. So thank you to Arts Council for that. And also thank you to Audience Agency for their support as well. And that's me. Thank you.
Thanks. Great.